and welcome to a short video on Axway Managed File Transfer. This video is focused on how we handle authentication and authorization in Axway SecureTransport. So let's first look at authorization and SecureTransport. So authorization is primarily done through this Access tab here. When a user logs on to the system, they are placed into a user class, and this list of user classes is evaluated from top to bottom when the user first authenticates. The first rule that's matched is the class that the user is going to be placed into. So in this case, if a user has a group identifier in their account of 5,000, they're going to be placed into the restricted user class. So where that group identifier applies is as if I have a user here with a GID value of 5,000. They'll be placed into the restricted user class. Once they are in the restricted users, I've then assigned a few restrictions based on this menu here. So I'm not allowing these users to create a directory. I'm not allowing these users to upload into the root folder. What that looks like from the user's perspective, if I try and upload something into this folder, I'm going to get it denied. If I try and create a folder here, I'm also going to get it denied. So that's the user restrictions in place. Another approach for restricting access to the system is through login restrictions. These allow you to create a policy which you can then apply to your business units or individual users to either allow access or deny access based on specific rules. So in this example I've created here, I'm denying all access to users of this policy unless they match this specific rule here. So this rule is looking for a variable which you need to manually create within the account to allow them access to the system. So the use case here would be if you want to deny access to every interface and then potentially allow access to individual interfaces. So in this case, the HTTP interface, I'm going to have to go and specifically allow it. So what this looks like at an account level is, firstly I need to assign the policy. So for the login restrictions here, I have this allow HTTP policy. And first up I'm going to show what it looks like when it's allowed. So if I have this allow HTTP variable added to the user properties, I should be able to then go on, log into my HTTP interface just fine, everything looks good. If that user didn't have that for any reason, or you decided you didn't want to give that user access anymore, it's then going to give them access denied. So they can't access it unless they have that variable. That's probably a more complicated use case. There are other options for configuring these login restrictions, and if you drill into the rule base here, there's a few examples of how we can create various restrictions. So if we want to restrict the concurrent logins, usernames, that kind of stuff. But with the combination of allow and deny rules, you can get quite specific of how you allow users accessing the system. These aren't mandatory. It's an optional feature. You can have them turned on or off if you need to. We also provide a Java-based SDK to create your own custom authorization plugin. Details on this is available through our docs portal. So you can create a plugin which essentially triggers some logic based on these various different events, and it allows you to extend the out-of-the-box authorization capabilities. So looking at options for authentication now, end users and administrators are handled completely separately, so you can have different authentication mechanisms for each set. Both support a single sign-on via a SAML-based IDP. We also support plugins for both, which allow us to do other things like Radius, OAuth, there's an LDAP plugin for administrators. Also, we do support the SDK has the ability to create custom authentication plugins if you need to do something that we can't currently do out of the box. Well, what I've got set up on this demo environment for the end users is normal local SecureTransport users, which are configured under this accounts menu here. Plus I've also got an LDAP domain set up. So once we have a LDAP domain configured with our required service account and credentials to perform the lookups, we've got a couple of different options for authenticating our end users. Firstly, we can go and change the properties of the user account to require a external password. So it's as simple as unchecking the box there. This means that if I've got a user in my LDAP store that matches the username, user1 in this case, they'll be authenticated, and all of the config that we have set up here on this local account will then be mapped to the user. So it's an easy way of mapping LDAP credentials to local SecureTransport users. It's quite flexible in that you can have all of your required config and individual configuration applied to individual LDAP users. Another approach for authenticating users that are in an LDAP directory is to create them based on an account template. So what occurs here is when a user first authenticates with an LDAP directory, they will then trigger the creation of their account properties based on what we set up in this account template. So I've got this set up here for this demo users account template. What this is doing is taking some variables from the LDAP directory when the user successfully authenticates, and then assigning them to the user account when we create it. So there's some things that we can create, and I've done a couple of subscriptions with a shared folder here. You can define transfer sites and various other transfer flows, but in this case I just want to create a pretty simple user account and a shared folder. So the way that is triggered is when the user logs on through LDAP and their credentials are accepted, they're going to be passed back a series of values to SecureTransport, including the group membership. So in this case, if the user is a member of a specific LDAP group, they're going to be placed into this demo users class. And in doing that, the demo users class is going to trigger the creation of an account based on this template, which is then going to go and create all of this account properties. Now these accounts that are created from a template won't appear in the users list, but you can allow users access simply by adding them to the LDAP directory, and in this case adding them to a group. So what that looks like is we've got demo user, which is a user on my LDAP directory, and this has now gone authenticated the user based on the LDAP credentials, and it's then created the account on the fly. So it's this Axway docs, I've got my mailbox access, everything's created, ready to go. So now it's a simple case. If I just want to add more users, I add them to the group on LDAP and they get automatically provisioned. It's not that flexible in terms of what you can do, like you need to define the entire config that you're going to give the account, but it is an easy way to give generic access to a lot of users in your LDAP store. And that concludes a short video on some options for authentication and authorization in Axway SecureTransport. Please reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you.